Think about the last time someone really hurt you. Not a small inconvenience, not a minor annoyance. I mean really hurt you. What did you do? Did you confront them immediately? Did you cry? Did you yell? Or did you just go quiet? Did something in you just shut down, like a phone screen going dark after no one touches it for a while? If you're nodding at that last one, this video is for you. And I want you to know something before we even get started. There's a lot more happening inside that silence than most people realize. Because here's what the world tends to assume about people who go quiet when they're hurting. That they're being passive-aggressive, that they're giving the silent treatment as a form of punishment, that they're emotionally immature, or worse, that they just don't care enough to say something. But that assumption, it's almost completely backwards. Let me introduce you to someone. Her name isn't important. Let's call her Amara. Amara is the kind of person who will drop everything to help a friend, who listens better than almost anyone you've met, who will laugh loudly in a good moment and hold you gently in a bad one. But when Amara herself gets hurt, when someone she loves says something cutting, or betrays her trust, or dismisses her feelings, she goes completely silent. She doesn't argue, she doesn't cry in front of you. She just withdraws, gets a little colder, a little further away. And people in her life have called her cold for it, have accused her of manipulating them with silence, have said she's impossible to talk to. What they didn't understand, what Amara herself barely understood, is that her silence wasn't a weapon, it was a shield. Here's what's actually happening in the nervous system of someone like Amara when they're hurt. Psychologists call it emotional flooding. When we experience pain, especially social pain, which your brain processes in literally the same regions as physical pain, by the way, the emotional brain, the amygdala, goes into overdrive. It floods the system with stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, the whole cocktail. And in that flooded state, the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for language, reasoning, articulating complex thoughts, it essentially goes offline. Not permanently, not because something is broken, but because the brain is prioritizing survival over conversation.
So when someone who goes quiet in pain seems like they have nothing to say, what's actually closer to the truth is that their brain has temporarily lost access to the words. The feelings are enormous. The processing is happening, but the translation from feeling to language, that circuit has a breaker and it just tripped. Now, this isn't something that happens equally to everyone. Research in developmental psychology, particularly work building on John Bowlby's attachment theory, suggests that people who grow up in environments where expressing emotions wasn't safe tend to develop what's called an avoidant attachment style. And avoidant doesn't mean unfeeling. It means the nervous system learned, early on, that showing hurt leads to more hurt. Maybe they cried as a child and were told to stop being dramatic. Maybe they expressed anger and were punished for it. Maybe they reached out when they were sad and no one came. So the brain, being the brilliant adaptive organ it is, said, okay, new strategy. When it hurts, we go inward. We protect the soft parts by presenting the hard exterior. Think of it like a tortoise. A tortoise doesn't pull into its shell because it doesn't care about the world. It pulls in because the shell is the only armor it has. And here's the layer that makes this even more interesting and more heartbreaking, honestly. People who go quiet when they're hurt are often the most emotionally sensitive people in the room. Studies on what psychologists call high sensitivity, pioneered by researcher Elaine Aron, show that roughly 15 to 20% of the population processes emotional information much more deeply than average. They pick up on subtleties others miss. They feel things with more intensity. And precisely because the feeling is so large, so overwhelming, speaking it out loud in the moment feels impossible, almost violent, like being asked to carry a grand piano up a staircase. The silence isn't emptiness, it's containment. There's also something important happening with self-protection and dignity. For many quiet when hurt people, silence is the one thing they feel they can control when everything else feels out of control. When you're in pain and you speak before you've processed, you risk saying the wrong thing, crying in a way that feels humiliating, appearing weak in front of someone who already hurt you. The silence is, in a very real way, the last piece of power they're holding on to. You may have hurt me, but you will not see me fall apart. Now I want to ask you something directly. Are you someone who does this, who goes quiet when you're wounded? Because if you are, I want you to gently challenge yourself on one thing. There's a cost to this kind of silence that often goes unacknowledged. When we consistently protect our pain behind walls, the people who care about us genuinely cannot reach us. Not because they don't want to, but because walls don't have doors. And over time, relationships can slowly starve for lack of honest emotional contact, even when both people are good, well-meaning, deeply caring people. The silence that once protected you can become a prison where the hurt just echoes around inside with nowhere to go.
And if you're on the other side of this, if you love someone who goes quiet when they're hurting, please hear me on this. Pushing them to talk immediately almost never works. In fact, it usually makes it worse because you're essentially trying to pry open the shell while the tortoise is still in full retreat. What tends to work far better is creating safety without pressure, letting them know you're there, being steady and patient, and then, when the storm inside them has quieted a little, gently opening the door and leaving it open. Whenever you're ready, I want to understand. Because here's the beautiful paradox at the center of all of this. People who go quiet when they're hurt are almost always people with a tremendous amount to say. They've just learned, through hard experience, to say it slowly, carefully, when they trust that being heard is actually possible. Their depth of feeling is real. Their loyalty is real. Their inner world is incredibly rich and nuanced. The silence isn't absence, it's waiting. And if you're someone who moves through the world this way, who retreats when wounded, who needs time and safety before the words come, I want to leave you with this. The goal isn't to become someone who blurts everything out immediately. The goal is to slowly, gently build enough trust in yourself and in your relationships that the silence becomes a pause rather than a permanent wall. That you can say, eventually, I need a little time, but I promise I'll come back and tell you what's going on inside. Because that is not weakness. That's emotional intelligence paired with self-awareness, and it's rarer than you think. You feel deeply, you protect fiercely, and when you finally do speak, people should listen closely because it means something real is being offered. If this resonated with you, if you recognized yourself in Amara or in someone you love, drop a comment below. Tell me, are you someone who goes quiet, or are you someone trying to understand someone who does? And if you want to keep exploring the hidden psychology behind everyday human behavior, you know what to do. The next video is already waiting for you.